So Slate finally took the bag off the horse and showed us the price. 25 grand, and the internet lost its mind. And then I did the thing that they really wanted me to do. Log back in and look at the price on the one I configured. And the number that came back, let's just say my wallet filed a restraining order against me. What's happening, Panda Nation? Peter Von Panda here. So here's the deal. June 24th, Slate drops the pricing of their little EV pickup, and a few days before, some keyboard detectives went digging through the code on their website and apparently found that it's going to be a $25,000 base car. Now, some folks were convinced that this was a head fake, a red herring, that the Slate was going to swoop in at the last second and undercut it, come in a little lower and be the hero. Yeah, no, 25 grand is exactly what it was. Slate looked at those people, smiled, and charged them exactly what the leak said. So, if you were holding out for a surprise discount, I hope you also still believe the check is in the mail. But here's the part that actually surprised some people. And look, there was some speculation, but they actually switched the whole battery setup. They went to LFP batteries, and the base range is now 205 miles. Let's just call it 200 for this, because I don't want to say 205 every time I'm talking about the range. But it's actually a glow up from the old original plan, because originally you were looking at either a 140-ish mile pack or a 240-ish mile pack. And let me be the guy who says it out loud. 140 miles of range is not a car. It's a science experiment with cup holders. There have been so many cars that have flirted with that. The BMW i3, the Fiat 500e. Nobody wants a car with just over 100 miles of range. So anyway, bumping it up to 200, that was definitely the right call, in my opinion. And here's the part of the LFP switch that doesn't get enough credit, because it actually changes how you live with the thing. With the old battery chemistry, the rule was you got to baby it. Only charge it to 80%, leave yourself a buffer, treat the battery like a household plant. But LFP flips it on its head. You can actually charge an LFP pack to damn near 100% every single night without hurting it. And you can run it down lower too. It actually likes being topped off all the way. And that matters way more than it sounds. Let me show you exactly why with a little story from this past winter. Stick with me here. This is the part where the math actually matters, and I promise to make it less painful than your last visit to the DMV. Last winter, we got hit with a stretch where it was sub-zero for like a week. And one morning I walked out to my car and it's 17 below, negative 17 degrees. The kind of cold where your snot instantly becomes ice the second you step outside. But here's the thing nobody tells you when you buy an EV. Cold weather eats your range like I eat the free bread before the entree shows up. That day, I lost almost 30% of my estimated range. Just gone, vaporized. So my 80-mile round-trip commute suddenly needs 110 miles of range just to break even. Now, watch what LFP does for me here, because this is the good news. Since I can charge it to the full 100% guilt-free, I actually start the day with the whole 200 miles, not the 160 I'd have been stuck with on the old baby to 80% chemistry. And then the Arctic blast takes its 30% cut. Now I'm down to 140 real-world miles. I drive 80 and I roll into the garage with about 60 miles left in the tank. And even if I keep a sensible little 20-mile floor, so I'm never flirting with zero, that's still around 40 miles of genuine breathing room. On the old battery, charging only to 80 and babying both ends, I'd have been white-knuckling that drive on the way home. So that LFP swap quietly handed back to me about 40 miles of range that I'd otherwise have been told never to touch. Am I happier with that? Yeah, a lot actually. That's a pretty good deal. Does a brutal cold snap still give my commute a little anxiety? Yeah. But the difference between I might not make it home and I've got a 40-mile cushion is the difference between an EV you tolerate and an EV you trust. And something always goes wrong, by the way. I have absolutely been parked on the highway for 3 hours in the cold, going nowhere, watching my range tick down. So 40 miles of margin, yeah, I can work with that. Okay, now here's where Slate did something genuinely clever. If you put a deposit down, and I did, because I'm a man of questionable financial discipline sometimes, they let you save your configurations in your profile, and when the pricing dropped for all those different accessories, those saved builds got priced automatically. So I logged into my portal to find my little fantasy garage just sitting there with real numbers attached, and it's kind of a brilliant move, honestly. Now, full confession, I goofed around early on and built a few of these. One of them was a blacked out Marty McFly Toyota pickup replica, as close as you could make it. But the one that I actually wanted to drive is a little boxy SUV that looks like a little Range Rover Defender that got left in the dryer, which is the whole vibe of this thing anyway. Cute, square, utilitarian, just a little runaround. And I have some personal real life needs. I got to haul my golf clubs. I got to carry around some extra people every once in a while. I drag stuff to work. So I optioned mine up, not with everything. I showed some restraint, but I did add stuff that mattered. I put on a roof rack because I actually used the roof rack because none of my cars has a lot of cargo capacity. I wrapped it in the tan color to give it that cool off-road look that I will never use. I actually added armrests. I added power windows, which, spoiler alert, actually aren't available. I added speakers. I added all-terrain tires. I added the rear spare tire carrier. I added the kit and the rear seat. And here's the fun part. In an earlier video, I took that same build and I actually fed it into the LLM AIs and asked it to guess the final price. And they came back with a range of 33 to 38 grand. And I did a video on that and everyone said, why would you ask AI to do that? It's not going to be accurate. Anyway, personally, I would have guessed $39,999, $40,000. The consensus was the high 30s, 38,000 and change. So Slate prices out my actual build and guess what? It's spot on. $37,774.80. Because of course there's 80 cents on there, like that 2 bits is gonna matter. The robots actually nailed it, which is impressive and also kind of terrifying because AI apparently knows more about Slate and my own spending habits than anyone else. But that number there, that's the whole story because at almost 38 grand, and I'll just be honest, that didn't include the power windows because apparently they're not going to be available at launch. So it's actually going to be like a 38,000, not the nearly 38,000. But anyway, my point is for $38,000, I can walk into a Tesla, a brand new Model 3, more range, software so advanced it practically does your taxes or at least drives for you. I'm using the Tesla measuring stick here because everybody knows it. I don't actually have a Tesla, but for that same money, I can get a genuinely nice, fully loaded gas car that actually will tighten my pants a little bit. And down at the bottom at 25, 26 grand, I can cross shop a Chevy Trax, Buick Envista with power windows, remote entry speakers, leather, armrests, the works. I actually don't add those on as options. Meanwhile, my configurator, because of the no power windows thing yet, tells me that it's going to be a hang crank window situation in the year of our Lord 2026. You're going to be out there cranking the windows like you're some sort of Neanderthal. Anyway, and at 38 grand, now I'm staring at a really refined, well-equipped Ford Maverick that does the actual truck stuff that I really want and doesn't make me roll down my windows. So look, I'm going to say this. As a fully loaded consumer vehicle, Slate is going to struggle. My optioned up camo, cigarettes, racing-inspired Land Rover Defender knockoff mini truck, I love it. I like the look. I wish I could have it. I genuinely do. But I do not like the almost $38,000 price tag on it. There are too many other choices at that price, and not just the smart, sensible spreadsheet choices, the emotional ones. Because here's an honest moment. If you dropped 38 grand in my lap right now and said, Pete, go out and buy a car, any car you want, guess what I'd do? I'd walk straight out and grab a 2018 BMW M2. Is that a competitor to the Slate? No, absolutely not. It's totally a different car. I'm just telling you that for that money, there are cars out there that move me in ways that a hand crank pickup simply does not, that get me a little hot in all the right areas. And yeah, I know if you watch my channel, I'm the hater and you're the fan, which is hilarious considering I'm the idiot who puts down money on the reservation just to apparently bag on it later. But I'll tell you right now, I'm not completing the transaction. I'm not throwing in an extra $300 to order the configured one. That little deposit I put down, I'm pretty sure it's gone. It's going to be donated to the cause. Go ahead and light a candle for it, sip a little pappy for it, whatever you want to do. That's the bad news. But here's where I'm going to do a complete 180 on you because I am genuinely fascinated by where this little thing could go. Here's what I think Slate actually wins. Not your driveway. Fleets. Sell the bare bones version, maybe shave a couple grand off, give it the smaller range pack to small businesses and corporate clients. The plumber, the florist, the pizza joint, the pet boys that runs parts to local auto repair shops, the little municipal trucks that an inspector drives out to the job site and back, vehicles that live within a tidy radius and never need to cross a state line. Plug them in overnight, they're simple, hopefully reliable, and you don't get that Windows are hang crank problem because Dave from receiving doesn't really care or Earl the home inspector doesn't even really use it. Here's the kicker. You can reconfigure the fleet later. If you bought 3 pickups for public works and now you want one of them covered so the tools stop rusting in the rain, buy the SUV kit, snap it on, you're done. The flexibility is legitimately smart. But the part that has me really excited, the future, the used market for these things. Think about it. Those businesses buy these things, they run them into the ground as work trucks for a couple of years, and then they hit the resale market. And because EVs don't have all the stuff that grenades on gas cars like oil and hoses, valve guides, timing belts, turbos, trust me, I'm dealing with that right now. People are way more comfortable buying an EV with, pretty significant miles on it. On a gas car, you hit 100, 150,000 miles and you start hearing noises, and that sound is suspiciously your bank account crying. But on an EV, outside of the suspension and normal wear and tear stuff, there's just fewer stuff to die. And remember that LFP battery, the durable long-haul chemistry? It shrugs off being fully charged every day. So a used one isn't nearly as scary as a clapped out gas truck with a sketchy timing chain. So that 25 grand base truck, in a couple of years, that could be $12,000 or $13,000. And now you're talking. Now I'm interested, because at 12 grand, I could go out and find a used one with some miles. I go back to Slate, buy the SUV kit, turn it into something family friendly or practical. And if the aftermarket shows up, and they will if this thing actually succeeds, if companies start cranking out cheap parts, camper setups, overlanding kits, now this thing gets really, really fun. Now we're cooking. That right there could be a totally fetch little weekend rig. So here's my honest read. Right now, Slate launching feels a little like the Kentucky Derby, where the gates open and instead of the horses exploding out, they just kind of meander out. They kind of just wander around, mosey around, take in the scenery. But here's the thing. They keep feeding more horses onto the track, and even if they're just meandering around at first, you get enough of them out there and it starts to get interesting. It doesn't have to be a home run on day one. They just have to survive and keep going and keep bringing the price down. And if they do, this thing becomes one of those cult classic movies nobody watched in theaters, but everyone discovers 5 years later and now swears they loved them the whole time. That's kind of what Slate is to me right now. I think it really comes into its own in a few years from now, once the used market and the aftermarket make it actually accessible to the regular guy like me. Maybe it never becomes my daily driver. But as a weekend toy, as a camping rig, a little overlanding setup I beat up on the weekends and don't worry about, that's the platform that could be perfect for that. So I'm kind of curious, would you rather Slate sells these dirt cheap, bare bones trucks to fleets and let the rest of us just snag them up used? Or do you think they need to win over the regular buyers right now, today, the average consumer or their toast? I can see both sides of this one, because for me, I'm not buying the one that I clapped out on their configurator today. It's just way too expensive. There are just way too many other options out there at that price point. But here's the twist. Maybe I'm not buying one today. But that doesn't mean I'm never buying one. Maybe it's just a question of when. Peter Von Panda, out.